Mankind, that word should have new meaning for all of us today. We can't be consumed by our petty differences anymore. We will be united in our common interest. Perhaps it's fate that today is the 4th of July, and you will once again be fighting for our freedom. Not from tyranny, oppression, or persecution, but from annihilation. We're fighting for our right to live, to exist. And should we win the day, the 4th of July will no longer be known as an American holiday, but as the day when the world declared in one voice, we will not go quietly into the night. We will not vanish without a fight. We're going to live on. We're going to survive. Today, we celebrate our Independence Day.
Free thinking, innovative, and totally open-minded. Tommy Nation Politics.
Hey guys, this is Tommy with Tommy Nation Politics. How's everyone doing today?
Tommy Nation Politics.
The President of the United States.
Today we celebrate America. Our freedom, our liberty, our independence. The 4th of July is a sacred day in our country, a day of history, of hope, remembrance and resolve, of promise and possibilities. Before me stands monument to the greatest and the goodness of our nation. Monuments of light and liberty. Towering memorial to George Washington, the general who led our revolution, the president who set our nation on a course. Thomas Jefferson. Words about liberty and equality literally changed the world. And across the tidal basin, from the Jefferson Memorial, there stands Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., his arms crossed, his eyes fixed ahead toward the promised land where equality is not only an aspiration, but a reality.
So let me get this straight. You and Thomas Jefferson, huh? That's really interesting, Joe.
They help define who we are, guide what we do, remind us of the work that history has given us in our own time. This year, the 4th of July is a day of special celebration. For we are emerging from the darkness of years, a year of pandemic and isolation.
And Trump.
A year of pain, fear, and heartbreaking loss.
And your opposition.
Just think back to where this nation was a year ago. Think to where you were a year ago.
You weren't in power.
And think about how far we've come. From silent streets, to crowded parade routes lined with people waving American flags. From empty stadiums and arenas to fans back in their seats cheering together again. From families pressing hands against a window to parents hugging their grandchildren once again. We're back traveling again. We're back seeing one another again. Businesses are opening and hiring again. We're seeing record job creation and record economic growth, the best in 4 decades, and I might add, the best in the world.
The best economy in the world, okay?
Today,
the biggest and the best
all
economy.
across this nation,
I'm not Trump.
with confidence,
Don't worry, I'm not Trump.
America is coming back together. "245 years ago, we declared our independence from a distant king. Today, we're closer than ever to declaring our independence from a deadly virus. That's not to say the battle against COVID-19 is over. We've got a lot more work to do.
So, guys, the chat's open. I want you to answer this question. Has he been drinking? Is that what it is?
Is not a call to action.
Slurred his speech a little bit.
Was a call to action, not a reason for
cut you off, Joe.
complacency or a claim of victory. It was a call to action. The same is true today. Back then, we had the power of an idea on our side. Today, we have the power of science. Thanks to our heroic vaccine effort, we've gained the upper hand against this virus. We can live our lives. Our kids can go back to school. Our economy is roaring back. Don't get me wrong. COVID-19 has not been vanquished. We all know powerful variants have emerged, like the Delta variant. But the best defense against these variants is to get vaccinated. My fellow Americans, it's the most patriotic thing you can do. So please, get vaccinated. Do it. Do it now. For yourself.
Do it now!
For your loved ones. For your community. And for your country. You know,
do it for the
we're going to
kids.
stay ahead
Do it
of
for the
these
kids.
variants.
Say that, Joe.
Protect the hard-won progress we've made. We never again want
Don't you love
to
your
be
kids?
where we were a year ago today. So today, while the virus hasn't been vanquished, we know this. It no longer controls our lives. It no longer paralyzes our nation. And it's within our power to make sure it never does again. And for that, we can thank the scientists and researchers, the educators, and all the other frontline and essential workers, like many of you here today. Who became the light to see us through the darkness.
President Joe Biden's abilities to do his job effectively have been called into question again. This time it's coming from very popular podcast host Joe Rogan. Listen to this.
We don't really have a real leader in this country anymore.
Yeah.
I mean, you could say Joe Biden is the president, he's our leader, and you'd be correct on paper, but I mean, everybody knows he's out of his mind. He's barely hanging in there.
So, I mean, that's just Joe Rogan saying what he thinks on his podcast. That's what he does. But joining me now, Victor Davis Hanson, senior fellow at the Hoover Institution. Victor, always good to see you. And you say that there are a number of assessments that are logical and reasonable to make based on what we're watching here in this presidency.
Yeah, I think both can be a bipartisan endeavor. I think people can say, does he seem frail when he gets on the steps of Air Force One? Yes. Does he have moments where he freezes and he doesn't say anything for long pauses? Yes. Does he say things that are not just untrue but absurd, such as that there were no vaccinations until he came into office, when there's a picture of him being vaccinated on December 21st, or that Officer Sicknick was killed by a Trump supporter, which we know was not true, or that the G7 chairman had not called on the member from South Africa, which he just called upon? Does he have people that seem to shepherd him around, his wife or Kamala Harris, at press conferences? Does he say, I'm not supposed to do this, or they won't let me do this, as if he's almost admitting that he's under custodianship? Does he have a abbreviated day? Is it very clear that he's not traveling, he's not being out in the way that Barack Obama was, or Bill Clinton, or Donald Trump and George W. Bush? I say yes. So there's all these signs, and it's very ironic because you see, Martha, the left had told us, going back to Reagan when he was 77 in 1986, that he had cognitive problems, and this is terrible, you've got to hold the president account. And then when John McCain ran, you remember in 2008, he was 72, and they ran a commercial, the left did, saying he doesn't even know how many houses he has. And then finally, you know, Donald Trump was, Rod Rosenstein and Andrew McCabe said that he was non-compos mentis, and they wanted to wear a wire to trap him so they could invoke the 25th Amendment. Finally, they got a Yale psychiatrist to say that he had mental problems, and finally he took the Monterey cognitive assessment and aced it. Yeah. So we could settle this in the way the left had tried to settle it with Donald Trump, by having Biden just take a bipartisan group of doctors and just take a test and put these worries to rest.
Yeah, he said on the campaign trail he wasn't, didn't need a test because, it would be ridiculous to even ask. And you make some very good points.
Hey guys, this is Tommy with Tommy Nation Politics. How's it going? Okay, this time it wasn't restream. This time it was my fault. I pressed the wrong button. I was trying to end the video because we just saw Joe Biden's speech. I have a lot to say, but I had two people watching. Sorry that I ended it. I'm not done to comment on this stuff, and I feel like you do too, because it's your country too. While we're celebrating and reminiscing, getting into the mood of nostalgia, then while we're doing that, this is what progressives are so mad about, guys. While we're doing that, we're forgetting about the atrocities that are being unleashed on the world in our name. The richest country in the world neglecting their poor, neglecting their workers, neglecting the one principal value, which is to serve who? We the people. It used to be that everybody was created equal except for, the black people. Frederick Douglass, we had just talked about in the pre-video. He argued in 1852 that celebrating values such as freedom and citizenship on Independence Day was good, except for the fact that we weren't all free. And if we're not all free, then all men are not created equal. You guys get that drift? It's an offensive thing to celebrate freedom and independence when some of the populace in the United States lacked liberty and lacked identity. Douglas called the Founding Fathers brave and great men, but pointed to the hypocrisies of the Declaration of Independence. That preached life, liberty, the pursuit of happiness, the things that we preach here at Tommy Nation Politics. And these things, guys, they are important. They're important principles and values. They're the greatest principles and values of political freedom and natural justice. And they're embodied in our Declaration of Independence and extended to us and embodied in the Constitution. Like I always say, we have the opportunity to make this Constitution mean something, guys. To make it mean something. What does it mean now? What does it mean now but just conventional wisdom and social norms? Frederick Douglass said, "What to the American slave is your 4th of July?" I answer, a day that reveals to him, more than all other days in the year, the gross injustice and cruelty to which he is constant victim. I mean, nothing points that out, that we're all in the same boat, than the COVID pandemic, when they robbed us and buffered the stock market with government money and called it a free market. They have the nerve and audacity, with their puppets of the rich, to push this narrative that we're a free country. We might be the richest country on the face of the world and the greatest. Our military might be unrivaled, unparalleled. But let me tell you guys, we are in the exact same shape as Rome was when they started the Senate. And Joe was talking about how we're so close. We are so close. We're all so close, guys. I could just break down the speech right now. I think I probably will. But I have to finish what I'm talking about. First, guys, I'm talking about the thing that's even more dangerous than Joseph Elizabeth Biden. The thing that's even more dangerous is the tranquilizing drug of gradualism. Does that sound familiar to you? The tranquilizing drug of gradualism. Thomas, where have I heard that before? Oh, well, it was Dr. Martin Luther King, the guy that Joe Biden was invoking, talking about how he was a light in the darkness. Guys, I'm of the idea that you have to make choices every single day. Every day, who you are, who you stand, what you stand for, what your principles and values are, guys. You have to make that choice. Joe made his choice. What does Joe make? Joe makes his choices to follow and be the puppets of the banks, the military-industrial complex, and Wall Street. He's clearly made these choices, and it's not my fault. It's not Tulsi Gabbard's fault. It's not Bernie Sanders' fault. These are the choices that we make. Choices we can also make, guys, is we can be imposters to our principles and values. We can choose to negate those and go into the stream of the bandwagon mentality, the conventional wisdom, and the social norms. We can choose to do that. You think that's a good idea? Let's listen to Joe real hard.
Promise.
What is he really saying to us?
And possibilities.
Promise and possibilities for him.
Before me stands monument to the greatest and the
Listen closely, guys.
of our
It's
nation.
really easy to figure this out. It
Monuments
really
of
is.
light and
There's public
liberty.
records. There's data.
There's a towering
There's a
memorial.
record. There's a 40-year neoliberal
George
record.
Washington, the general who led our revolution, and the president who set our nation on its course. There's a memorial to Thomas Jefferson,
So, guys,
whose words about liberty and equality
let's just break
literally
that down, guys.
changed the
Let's just break that down. He's talking about all the presidents that came before him. The guy literally is. And guess what? He mentions Thomas Jefferson with great words of equality and liberty. The man that tortured and raped his slaves. This is the club you want to join? This is the big club that you ain't in and you want to be in it? It's only a matter of time till we become the thing that we hate. I think that's what Harvey Dent said to Bruce Wayne in The Dark Knight. He said, sometimes you live to see yourself become the villain. Joe has never been the good guy. He famously told people that he was planning on prostituting himself at a young age because he got into office at a young age. He's been at this for a long time, guys. He's been at it for a long time. He tried to prostitute himself when he was in his 30s. They said, come back when you're in your 40s. That's what happened, guys. It's not my fault that happened. It's just the facts, man. Speaking of facts, guys, Marianne Williamson laid some truth bombs as well with the Assange case. So, once again, you leftists are talking about, you're literally wanting Assange, a free-thinking journalist, Who's the only journalist, by the way, who does actual journalism besides Aaron Mate? I think they're the only two. Oh, Glenn Greenwald, formerly of The Intercept. Literally, they're the only people that do journalism, guys. And you call him a traitor. And get this, you leftists, you literally are worshiping the people that have infiltrated leftist organizations throughout time and memoriam to destroy them from the inside. Comey and Mueller, your boyfriends. So this is a PSA announcement. So I as a black person, I can stand the celebration of arrogance in this American exceptionalist nightmare, bullshit, propagandist, nationalist cockfighting that you do. I can even stand your partisan politics, which makes me literally want to vomit in my mouth. But I'm not going to let you call yourselves leftists anymore. You neoliberals are not leftists. You are making us look bad. You're imposters. You don't believe in our values and principles. You sell them out to Joe Biden. You literally throw Tara Reid under the bus. #MeToo for Joe Biden. You guys are not leftists. Every time you say that you're leftists, I understand why they think you're communists. Because what are you? You're literally nothing. The government might as well own you. You might as well be communists. Because you're nothing else. This isn't about Julian Assange, guys. This is like Marianne Williamson said. This is about free press. This is about the First Amendment. You know the Constitution that we're talking about, that we're celebrating right now? We're talking about that. We're talking about our life, liberty, the pursuit of happiness. We're talking about bigger things than Joe Biden. We're talking about Medicare for all. We're talking about a Green New Deal. We're not talking about Joe Biden. The term. So I just want to make clear, guys, and I'm trying to get angry. I'm getting a little riled up. I'm not really angry. I'm just frustrated. I'm exhausted over the arrogant self. When half of these people that are lighting fireworks outside are not even going to vote. They're not even going to want to change the course of our human history or our nation. They're not going to want to save our nation. They just want to light fireworks off. They want to consume. They want to obey. They want the conventional wisdom and the social norms, guys. If you think that is celebrating America, well, it's not. I hate to tell you that. I'm not a hater. I'm not a conspiracy theorist. I'm not insurrectionist, although I have to hand it to the right wing. Their heads in the game at least. Their heads in the game at least. That's what I think. So if you guys who call yourselves progressives or leftists want to come at me with my my compliments on the right wing, at least their heads in the game. Here we are with Mueller and Comey. We're literally eating dinner with the fox and the wolf. It's disgusting. Throwing women under the bus, making stupid holidays when we don't have police reform. What kind of bullshit is this? It's worse than nothing is fundamentally changing. It's literally bullshit. We're changing it all to bullshit. That's what it is. It's even worse than nothing is fundamentally changing. This guy is worse than nothing is fundamentally changing. And what's worse is you are too. Oh, why can't we just civilly talk about how this, moderately civilly talk about, one more thing before I go, guys. I really do admire George Washington. George Washington was the first president. He resigned the office. He thought a lot about humanity and his own nature. He knew who he was. But he had bad advice in that Newborough conspiracy. Because Congress is never going to act. They're literally, and now, if you think Congress was slow then, George, now there's money in politics. What are we going to do now, George? I wish I could talk to him and ask him about that. Because, so to sum that up, guys, I love George Washington. He had some great, courageous words. He was a general. He fought for his country. He was in the front lines fighting for his country. And he became the president. And everyone respected him. He moved the military from doing something that they wanted to do. Do you know how hard that is to move the Pentagon? To move these military guys? He moved them because he was one of them. He was a friend. He was a founding father. He held gravitas. He held real decorum. The rest of this is just fake bullshit espousing. And by the way, when George Washington was in office, there were no Republicans, there were no Democrats. His own little friends, Jefferson and Burr, were fighting all the time, right in his office. They got shit done. They got a constitution written. They had a convention and signed it. They had signed a Declaration of Independence, and along with that, they signed, guys, what is that thing? Oh, man. They gave the British, after the British surrendered in Yorktown, they gave them like a list of things that they had to do to keep their lives as they were sailing out of the mainland. Literally, the British literally had to do these things or they would die. It was something. That was patriotic. You call that nowadays, guys. You do something like that, oh my God, you're a conspiracy theorist, you're an insurrectionist. What else do you call these people? I don't know. But I know that Facebook is definitely wanting you to point those guys out, and they're definitely banning them from the guidelines and community standards. And Amazon just updated its famous leadership principles. So now Amazon's not only mailing you shit constantly 24/7, but they're now dictating your principles. They're mailing you your principles now. Want to hear your new principles? Partisan puppets? Here's your new principles. Ready? From the Insider magazine publication. Amazon has amended its famous company values the day before Jeff Bezos is set to step down as CEO. The e-commerce giant announced Thursday that it has updated its leadership values to, the first one is going to be strive to be the Earth's best employer. Strive to be the Earth's best employer. I wonder if they have to call him that. Hey, Earth's best employer, may I please have a cup of coffee and a break? They lead with empathy. They fun at work. Make things easy for others. Always care about others more than yourself. We're slowly being conditioned to lose our rights, our liberty, pursuit of happiness in our lives. It's a disturbing feeling, guys. So what I want to say is I don't want to turn this into a negative reflection. I want to say be vigilant, guys. Be free-thinking, innovative, and open-minded. Make sure that you use this time of reflection of our country to remember the history of it. Remember the mistakes we made. Remember the wonderful celebrations we had. Learn from our history so that we can move forward, so that we can progress. This is Tommy Nation Politics, your new independent, free, progressive media.
We have a vision of Washington today that's very distant. He seems almost sort of a figure off Mount Olympus, if not Mount Rushmore. And we think of him as being above the partisan fray, and as a result, he's lost a bit of his humanity. He was a very self-monitoring man. He understood very clearly the discipline of dignity, which is how he saw leadership, being a general. But that behind the mask of command that he very carefully cultivated, that particularly during his second term, that this was a man in pain, psychic pain, physical pain. He was becoming brittle and ill-tempered. He would go into furious rages, largely about the forces of partisanship that he could feel exploding even within his own cabinet. You know, here was a man with no sons, but his two most talented cabinet members, two surrogate sons, Jefferson and Hamilton, were warring with each other even within his own cabinet. And here Washington was trying to reconcile their divisions very actively. There was every indication that America might devolve into a civil war, that we could go the way other republics had in the past, of being divided and our own worst enemy. And that's what Washington, based on his understanding of history, actively was trying to correct with the farewell address. So here was a man in full. And he brought all the aspects of his life into this speech. It was the sum total of all his hard-won wisdom. This was a document that people understood had a kind of transcendent value. It alone, I think, has the ambition among the founding documents to bridge the past with the present, with the future. And that also makes it unique.